All right, sleep dementia and how they correlate. Thank you so much, everyone, for registering. If you're on Facebook Live, welcome. Feel free to chat any questions that you have in the Q&A or the chat or on Facebook, and I'll be happy to get back with you. This is Andrew Neighbors, Valley Sleep Center's clinical sleep educator and respiratory therapist. Andrew spends a lot of his time educating patients on obstructive sleep apnea and other sleep disorders, helping people who struggle with their CPAP mask. And he volunteered to do tonight's webinar on dementia and how it affects sleep. So Andrew, thank you so much. I wanted to say welcome. And I'm Laurie Ledley, for those of you who don't know me, founder and president of Valley Sleep Center and Valley Sleep Therapy. So I'll be here on standby and take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Laurie. Yes. So, it's a obviously Alzheimer's and dementia and some neurological disorders are always, it's something scary for all of us to think that could happen. Most of us have been affected with it in their lives. I know my grandmother had dementia, and a lot of times we've seen it, and there's a couple avenues to handle it. Some people are just entrenched with it because it's their significant other, and then other people are, oh, this is my family member, and they're avoiding it. I don't want to see my family member like this. I don't want to see them not know or not remember or not anything. And there's a couple things about sleep has a link to these cognitive disorders, and sleep is just really designed to put all those puzzle pieces back together in your brain every single night. It cleans out all the trash and all the garbage in our brain. Our brain fills up with adenosine like all day long, and our body is trying to flush that out. Okay, it's trying to just like get rid of all the toxins. And people who don't sleep well or don't get enough sleep are at increased risk of potentially getting dementia or Alzheimer's or something along those lines. So I have a slideshow to go through, and I'll discuss, a lot of topics and points that it goes through. And of course, if you have questions or want to get into the chat, feel free to jump in, and we can get your questions once the slideshow's over. So I hope everybody gets something out of this. So I will share away. All right. We got sleep, dementia, and how they correlate. And of course, a nice cute picture of a guy who's just gradually waking up, pulling himself out of bed. So, we all know by now that good sleep is essentially good health. It's not rocket science. We're all very well aware of that. What lack of sleep is a significant risk factor for a lot of developing chronic health conditions, of course, either heart disease, diabetes, obesity, dementia, but are insomnia and dementia linked? While the connections between the two are not completely grasped and understood, there are studies a lot showing that the lack of sleep increases dementia risk, suggesting that it may be under-researched, but there is a definite correlation. When it comes to insomnia and dementia, one might think the correlation is clear. Sleep is known to play that essential role in things like learning, concentration, storing memories, boosting health, and overall mood, putting all those puzzle pieces back together. We all know how good it feels to get that good night's sleep when we feel the next day mentally and cognitively with it. But there are connecting factors, and various studies are suggesting that sleep patterns early in life may be a primary cause. Specifically, both insufficient sleep and potentially sleeping longer than average have shown to play a role in later dementia risk. Insufficient sleep, one of the things that's kind of what people don't see is, so let's take an 8-hour window, for example. Say if you're sleeping 8 hours. So in 8 hours, let's say you break it up into 4 sections, 4 2-hour sections where you're getting 4 full sleep chunks. And I'm just using this as a really general example because it's a little bit more dynamic than that. But if you're supposed to sleep 8 hours and you sleep 6 for some reason, and then you just consistently start sleeping 6 and you're missing that last 2-hour chunk of sleep, people can say, oh, I'm getting 75% of my sleep, I should be good. Well, in all reality, that the last part of the night of sleep is really important for our REM sleep and our brain health. You could be really not just subjecting 25%, you could be more like 40 or 50% of your sleep just by not getting enough time and having insufficient sleep. Experts do know that our brain and body undergo many essential biological functions during sleep, and then they only occur during sleep, including the clearance of the toxic waste that I was talking about that produces in the brain throughout the day. Therefore, sleep is essential. When we sleep, it's believed that our brains rid themselves of things that they don't need, and when they don't get enough sleep, a plaque-like substance called beta amyloid builds up. The accumulation of this particular type of brain waste is thought to be one of the chief causes of Alzheimer's disease. The National Institute of Health shared a study conducted by Dr. Severine Sabia of the Insomnia and University College in London, where they examined how sleep patterns earlier in life may affect the onset of dementia decades later. Research examined data from around 8,000 participants beginning at the age of 50. Each of them were assessed on a wide variety of measures, including and interviewed on 6 occasions between 1985 and 2016. So this is a long-term study, and they're trying to figure out how many hours at night each of these individuals are sleeping. To assess the accuracy of this self-reporting, some participants wore accelerometers or sleep trackers or actigraphy devices, as they used to be called, to measure their sleep objectively. There was a lot of time where they couldn't quite grasp how much sleep they were getting. They were unknown. They would think, oh, I think I only get 4 hours of sleep, and they might be getting 5 or 6. And then you would give a device that would track all of these movements, similar to kind of how the Fitbits and stuff of the world work today. And in the study, 521 participants were diagnosed with dementia at an average age of 77 years old. And this is out of 8,000 people. 521 people is quite a big statistic. And researchers made the adjustments to model the account for factors known as dementia risks that included sleep patterns, including physical activity, smoking, drinking, body mass index. They also separated out our participants with mental illness like depression and anxiety, which are strongly linked to sleep disturbances. So they were taking a hold of a lot of just generally healthy individuals. And this is the statistics they came up with. The analysis data showed that people primarily in their 50s and 60s got 6 hours of sleep less per night, were at a greater risk of developing dementia later in life. Compared to those getting a normal amount of sleep above 7, people who had less than average saw a link between lack of sleep and dementia, with a 30% increase of being affected by the disease. Specifically, the researchers found that elderly men who had less oxygen circulating in their blood during sleep tended to show more microinfarcts in the brain. Microinfarcts are tiny abnormalities in brain tissue that can precede dementia. Microinfarcts and atrophy are known to be much more common and more severe in people with dementia than in people without memory problems. Now, what to do if you're worried about the risk of your lack of sleep or dementia risk? If you're struggling with your lack of sleep, dementia could be, if it's something that is in your family history or something that you may be struggling with another sleep-related disorder, there are, of course, several adjustments that you can make to your daily routine that really, really helps. Establishing a regular sleep schedule. Even altering your schedule by a couple hours, going to bed a little bit later, waking up a little bit earlier, and doing this swing can throw off our circadian rhythms and our brain's ability to sleep properly and sleep longer. A lot of us do this on the weekends where we tend to sleep in or stay up a little bit later, and then we have to revert back to a normal sleep schedule come the weekdays. Eating healthy, we all know that that's good for us. There's a lot of variations of diet, eating healthy. It's like, what is healthy eating? We all know that salads are good for us, and French fries, dipped in ranch, are generally not. So there's a wide dynamic of eating healthy, but again, we should have a general idea of what good eating is. Adjusting your eating schedule, trying not to eat so much bigger meals closer to bed. You spend more time in the sun. The sun wakes up our pineal gland, which kind of keeps our day going. That's what keeping our circadian rhythms moving. Plus, vitamin D is also very healthy for us. Stop the use of caffeine, nicotine, or alcohol close to bedtime. Caffeine is a stimulant. Nicotine is a stimulant as well. And alcohol, it can help a person get to sleep, but it really doesn't maintain sleep at all. There's the hangover effect, there's the wear off on alcohol, plus alcohol can end up becoming a stimulant for our heart. It affects our heart rate variability. People who have drank alcohol may notice that their heart beats a little faster and a little bit more erratic than when they're completely sober and just relaxed. Treating chronic pain. This is obviously is a touchy subject for a lot of people because they deal with pain constantly and they can't lay certain ways and they can't get comfortable. Finding a way to help take care of this is important. Adjusting timeframes and taking medications. Of course, certain medications can have a big effect on your sleepiness and daytime effect. Increasing physical activity. Physical activity, just in general, like whether or not you're trying to lose weight or not, it helps burn a lot of calories and your body has to spend time recovering. And a person's sleep is just going to be that much better because your body is going to be shutting itself down and shutting itself off to recover. Exercising your mind and challenging your cognitive skills with brain games or activities. There's some research that shows that when a person spends significant amounts of time making their brain work, doing brain teasers or brain activities, or even just learning new skills and tasks, that their brain's going to spend a little bit more time in REM sleep than what you would had you done a lot of physical activity. And of course, you can always speak to your physician about prescription medications if your sleep is very, very poor. There's melatonin and there's a couple other sleep supplements that work quite well that are just general over-the-counter things that can help just improve your sleep quality. And of course, if any of these common signs and symptoms or trouble falling and staying asleep, you can always reach out to us. You can always contact one of our sleep experts. We can contact at sleep@valleysleepcenter.com or dial their phone number to reach us at 480-830-3900. So thank you very much. I hope everybody got something out of this. And does anybody have any questions?
Great stuff. Good stuff.
Really